Well, guys, Cory Sandhagen bounced back in a big way. Edson Barbosa got a much-needed win. And who the heck is fighting Khamzat Chimaev? We're talking about it all right now. What's up, Barnhill family? Welcome back to the channel.
Yo,
Nick, we found a little better spot here in this rental house to do the video today. So I hope you guys like the little print that we have behind us. I'm not even sure what that...
The traveling set. It's like a rug, a zebra rug.
But at least these microphones are a little bit more situated than last time.
Yeah, we won't have to hold them on rest them on our bellies this time.
Right. So we had the fights this past weekend, UFC Fight Night, Abu Dhabi, 5, I think it was.
Yeah.
And Cory Sandhagen had an amazing showing. You know, he lost to Aljo. He's trying to get back in the running. Everybody was talking about him being this next big thing at 135. He had the wind taken out of his sails just a little bit, but looks like he's back on track. Yeah,
a quick 40-second loss to Aljo, and that kind of lit a fire under his ass. I was totally wrong in my prediction on this. I thought Marlon Moraes was going to be able to get it done after his performance against Jose Aldo, and you know he's just been that guy, kind of like that Grim Reaper of the 135 division, and been taking out big names left and right. I think Cory Sandhagen is officially somebody that's on the radar for everybody at the top of 135.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, he did all the right things. He looked like a championship level fighter. He was able to fend off the extreme pressure and big shots early on by a very game opponent, former champion opponent, and kind of figure him out. And then notice at one point in the second round, he said his orbital bone is broken. He saw something in one of the shots that landed, noticed that Moraes seemingly broke his orbital and was able to, one, capitalize on that, and then two, look for the finish with that big spinning back kick. And then some nice ground and pound to seal it off. Really, really good performance.
Yeah, and the spinning back kick was one that it was something he tried earlier in the fight in the first round, and he had some success. There's actually a lot of spinning going on in that fight for both fighters. You know, a lot of times you'll see a fighter try something, and then just to get that one back, if the other fighter likes it, they'll do the exact same thing. And that was what happened. Cory Sandhagen in the first round threw a spinning back fist, and it was pretty good. I think it might have landed, but then right after that, the next shot that Marlon threw was a spinning back fist, and it was actually really crisp, a really clean one. But then this spinning shot in the second round for Cory was basically the beginning of the end, and it was all she wrote for Marlon. I think the biggest thing about Cory Sandhagen's performance this weekend was the composure. You know, he was super composed that whole first round and looked very fluid and very comfortable. You know, when you think of high-level strikers, kind of like, maybe not like Taekwondo style, but like a freestyle MMA striker in 135, Sean O'Malley comes to mind, TJ Dillashaw, but Sandhagen looked very comfortable switching positions, going from orthodox to southpaw, throwing a bunch of whipping shots and like, not like as in like he was like throwing a bunch of hooks and wild kicks, but he was everything he threw looked like it had like a pop to it, and looked like it had like some like, rather than like crazy like power, just a lot of speed and thrust in it.
Yeah, he did show some really good speed, and I actually had him losing the first round. I thought Marlon got the better of the big shots. Those spinning back fists, I think, scored for Marlon. But I think Sandhagen kind of went there with the intentions of, this is the main event. This is a 5-round fight. If Marlon has a weak point, it's the gassing, and I'm going to be able to get the better of him because I'm going to be able to play it smart in rounds 1, 2, and then start to take over 3 through 5 if the need be. So I think he kind of went there with the understanding that he wasn't going to concede the first round, but that he was going to feel out the first round, not try anything crazy, look for his shot, and then boy did he ever land it in the second.
Yeah,
and then it was really good after he landed that shot. When you have a guy that's a former champion that you just put on his butt, a lot of guys tend to get overzealous and get crazy after that. He kind of walked in, just step, and finished with, I think it was like a hook right to the face, boom, that put Marlon kind of, that kind of sealed the deal.
Right.
But really crisp, really good awareness to know, okay, I've got him hurt, I've got him down. I need to carefully place a couple of shots, and this thing's going to be tied up, and I'm going to get my hand raised. And so kudos to him for that.
Yeah, he didn't have to do much work. The ref was in a good position to see the facial reactions of Marlon Moraes once he got hit with that kick. And you know how it goes, like if somebody gets hit on the side of the head or like above the ear in that funny spot where it just shuts their body off, the ref sometimes won't see that, and they'll think the person is like better than they are or more aware than they are. Marlon, he got hit and went completely down, and it only took a couple of shots from Sandhagen, but it was good that he was able to let Marlon hit the ground and then not counter, but capitalize on the opportunity. So, yeah.
One thing that Sandhagen said is after the fight, he wants the winner of Jan and Aljo. But something I found very interesting was he also said he followed that statement up by saying that he believes that should TJ Dillashaw come back between now and when the winner of that fight gets their next match made, that he actually might take priority over him, and he actually wouldn't be upset about that. So my question to you is, do you think that, let's say TJ Dillashaw, he's off suspension in January, let's say something happens and you know, we get the result of Aljo and Jan, do you think what Sandhagen did last night was enough to give him the nod to fight the winner of that fight, or do you think it should go to TJ, as Sandhagen actually suggested that it should?
In my opinion, Sandhagen has done enough to earn a title shot. But that being said, a lot of guys have done enough to get a title shot in that division specifically. What it has to do with is matchups and styles and basically storylines. And I believe that the title fight at 135 between Aljo and Peter Yan the winner of that will be a big deciding factor in who fights for the title next. If Aljo goes and steals the belt, I don't think, because I'm personally not that interested in seeing a rematch right now of Aljo versus Cory Sandhagen, and I don't think a lot of people would be either, because it's so fresh on our minds. It just happened, and we saw what happened. 40 seconds all it took Aljamain Sterling to finish Sandhagen. I think if Peter Yan wins, there's a good place for Cory Sandhagen in the next title shot as a number one contender. But what I would rather see, because you know how it goes in MMA, you have to stay active. You can't wait around, and I think he would be smart to maybe redirect that call out to TJ Dillashaw. Because it would be wrong for the UFC to put TJ Dillashaw in there with anybody not in the top 5 or top 3, really, because he's so high level. And even though he's been off for 2 years, he was in title fight after title fight, was the champion.
Arguably the 135 GOAT for sure.
Right. I mean, somebody's got to come dethrone him even still. And so even though it's been 2 years, it's been a long layoff for him. He can't just jump in and go fight a Sean O'Malley or even a Cheeto Vera. They need to give him somebody at the top of the heap. Cory Sandhagen, I think he needs a dance partner.
Yeah, I think TJ is in there in either a title shot or at the very least a title eliminator. Yeah,
but at that same rate, you can't really give somebody who just got off a 2-year suspension for performance enhancements an immediate title shot. It seems a little weird. I feel like the UFC will make him do some heavy lifting, and Sandhagen would be a perfect match for that, because Sandhagen,
he is heavy lifting.
He's heavy lifting, and he's already trying to accumulate some pretty big names on his list, and TJ Dillashaw would probably be the biggest of all of them.
Yeah, and boy, that would really be a stark comparison to see, because TJ is so short.
Yeah,
and,
he's a small guy.
Sandhagen's 5'11", almost 6 feet, very tall, very skinny.
Yeah,
that would be optics-wise would be very cool. But I think that what you said is absolutely right, that it really does swing on who the winner of Aljo and Yan is, because if it's Yan, we haven't met Sandhagen. Yan, that's two really good strikers, one tall, one maybe a little bit more powerful. That's really an exciting fight. But if it's Aljo, it's like you said, it's kind of hard within a 12-month period of time to say, I beat you less than a year ago. It took me 40 seconds, and we're fighting in the same weight class. There's really nothing different here. There's nothing to see here.
Right.
So I think if Yan wins, then we see probably maybe the match get made with Sandhagen and Yan. If Aljo wins that, I would love to see TJ Dillashaw. I would love to see Cory Sandhagen rather welcome TJ Dillashaw back into the division. That would be great.
Yeah, and I think it's a fight both of those fighters could and would take if they were given the opportunity. TJ's eager to compete. You see him; he's back in the mix. He's training hard with some of the best fighters on the planet, and he's ready to get back into the mix. And he's one fight away from a title shot. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Even with the asterisk next to his name,
it's title eliminator or the UFC does crazy things. They may give TJ an immediate title shot just because he's such a big name, and if they want to make for some exciting things at 135, they could throw him back in there for a title. But I think more than likely what you'll see happen is TJ come back in for a title eliminator and then get his title shot. Should he win?
Yeah. That would be a very fun fight. And,
so the other side of that coin is the Magic Man. He's a guy that had so much promise, and I think really in a lot of ways still does. But I'm not ready to write off Marlon Moraes just yet. But it seems like some things are just not adding up for him in certain aspects. With the gassing, with the now getting caught. And then all the stuff that we talked about in the last video that his corner was calling for him to dig deep in the second round of a title shot. What do you think's going on, and what do you think Marlon can do to get back into title contention?
First of all, I don't think any fan should just write off Marlon Moraes. He just beat Jose Aldo. And the people, the masses like to say that Jose won that fight. The people that matter, the judges, said that Marlon Moraes won that fight. So he's literally one of the best fighters on the planet, beating people that have come down from bigger divisions. The GOAT of the 145 division, him and Max Holloway, those are the two best. He comes down, and people think that Jose won that fight, but the judges, the ones that matter, gave it to Marlon Moraes. And so he loses one fight with he gets knocked out. Some people like to say, "Oh, he got caught." I don't think this is a he got caught moment. I think he got outclassed, and he was a little bit tired. You could see at the end of the first round, he was breathing a little heavy, a little slower to get back to his corner than Sandhagen was. But Sandhagen is clearly one of the top guys in the entire division, and MMA is one of those sports where sometimes it's just not your night. I think on any given night, Marlon Moraes could still be the champion of the UFC's bantamweight division. He's just one unfortunate event, he loses the fight, but one unlucky in the sense that he wins a fight against one of the best guys that's ever done the sport, and then people, the general public, the masses, think that he lost it. So
much so that his opponent gets the shot.
Right, and everybody's like, oh, maybe he's washed up now. It's like, excuse me.
This is a guy that head kick knocked out the guy that's fighting for the title next.
Yeah,
so,
and also
not that long ago.
And also just beat Jose Aldo.
Right.
You can just say when somebody goes, is Marlon Moraes done yet? No, all you have to say is one thing: he just beat Jose Aldo this year.
Yeah, this year, and he head kick knocked out Aljamain Sterling, the guy that a lot of people are picking to beat Peter Yan. So I don't think that's it for Marlon. I do think, if I'm being honest here, he needs to work on his gas tank. He does fade way too quickly. And if you're going to be a champion level fighter, then you got to be able to go the 5 rounds.
Right.
Because you're not going to get he has tremendous power, and he's got great knockout ability, and he gets a lot of knockouts, but you're not going to get him in every fight. And if you want to get that belt and you want to hold on to it, which is even harder, you have to have that 5-round John Jones-like gas tank to hold a belt for a long period of time.
It also helps to have the genetics of a John Jones or a Cory Sandhagen, for that matter. He's so muscle-bound, Marlon Moraes is, and it's hard to fill those muscles up with enough oxygen and enough, blood to compete for 25 minutes. So, like you said, he has to work on that, but it might be more of a do what Jose Aldo did and try to change your lifestyle completely, change your body type completely, because he's right now there's one thing getting in his way, and I don't care if he does more miles, runs 2 extra miles every day, does more of this and that. If he doesn't lose some of the muscle, he's never going to be able to fill it back up with blood and oxygen like he needs to.
Do you think he's cutting too much weight? Do you think, we have Alexander Volkanovski, who's a 5'6" guy who's the champ at 145. I certainly think Marlon's power would translate at 145. Do you think maybe he'd try his luck, and because 135 is pretty much log jammed right now, especially with TJ coming back.
Yeah.
Do you think he ought to go up and try his luck at 145, see what he can do, see if his – I don't think he's got anything to lose in that regard because he's not getting a title shot anytime soon. I don't know who really off the top of my head would be super exciting that I want to see him in there with. Why not try the fresh coat of paint approach, pop up to 145, try it with your body type, see how it works.
Yeah, no, I think that would be a good thing for him to maybe think about doing. 135 is a bit of a logjam, and it's one of those situations where he's fought all the guys that are in line to be the champion or have been the champion. So it's not really like we need to see too many rematches there, but maybe a fresh coat of paint is exactly what he needs. And history would tell us that his height isn't really much of a disadvantage at 145. You go look, he was about the same size as Jose Aldo.
Right.
He was Max Holloway's a little taller than them, but not too much. You got some of the top contenders in Zabit and Yair Rodriguez that are a little bit lankier, but I think, somebody, if he got in there and, mixed it up with like a Jeremy Stevens or somebody like that, I think we'd have a very fun fight on our hands. And I'm not going to say that I think that maybe he could make a serious title run at 145 right now, but if he goes up, tries it, wins, that could be the thing that helps him, in like figuring his career out.
Yeah, I think so. And it wouldn't even necessarily have to be a permanent thing. It could be just a fun, like you said, a Jeremy Stevens, a fun fight to get you back up there in a co-main event spot. So it's exciting. The fans want to see how your body looks at 145. They want to see your power, and then just kind of use that to kill some time to see what happens at 135. And then kind of, if you decide to, creep your way back down there. But speaking of 145, the co-main event, Edson Barbosa got a much, much needed win against the up-and-comer Amirkhani. What did you think about his performance?
Oh, I thought it was fantastic. And, everybody, including myself, was a little bit skeptical about his move to 145. He was such a thin 155er, but it looked like he just didn't have any more weight to cut. He seems like a naturally thin guy, but it seemed like he had kind of maxed out at 155 and kind of like Jose Aldo changed his lifestyle a bit, cut a little bit more of that just mass, and was able to get to 145. People were thinking maybe his cardio will go down, kind of like the Marlon Moraes situation, or maybe he won't have the energy to get through these fights, or he won't have the knockout power. But I think this past weekend he proved that he most definitely still has a lot of power, sitting down Amirkhani 3 times in that fight. If I'm wrong, it was 4, but I'm pretty sure it was 3, and those were just with his hands. Yeah. When he's known for having some of the most powerful kicks in all of MMA, and I think now he's found his home, and confidence is a big part of this sport. And I think now getting a win under his belt is a big thing for him, and we're going to see some more success at 145 for Edson Barbosa.
Yeah, he definitely needed this win, because he was 5 of 6 in his last 6.
Losing those.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, he lost 5 of his last 6. He went 1-5. Albeit the last 2 were split decision losses. I think, one was to Paul Felder, and then it was his debut at 45, and
one of them was to Khabib.
Khabib Nurmagomedov and Justin Gaethje.
Yeah.
He lost his 145 debut. This was his second fight at 145. I thought he looked good. I thought his shovel hooks to the body were devastating. They took the wind out of Amirkhani's sails.
Yeah.
As far as cardio goes, he was able to keep a good pace. Amirkhani was able to get him on the ground a couple of times, but Barbosa had really good takedown defense largely. The times he did get on the ground, he was able to use his jiu-jitsu, and a couple times in the first and second, it was at the end of the round, so he was able to just hold guard and, good awareness to know it's 10 seconds left in the round, no sense in taking some elbows or whatever, just clinch the guard. You won the round. That takedown's not going to negate the fact that you won the round.
Right, especially because I think that a lot of people, including myself, had the second round being a 10-8 round.
Yeah, he sat him down with that kind of step forward power too.
Yeah.
It was really, really a nice shot. But, you mentioned Jeremy Stevens earlier. I think that personally, I'd love to see Barbosa in there with Jeremy Stephens.
That'd be a fun fight.
Jeremy
Stephens is the common denominator. If you're going to get a fun fight with Jeremy Stephens, you throw another explosive striker in there with him. Yeah. It's going to be a good night of fights. But
everybody knows who Jeremy Stephens is, even though he's the who the F is that guy.
Right.
You know who he is.
Yeah, he can thank Conor for that. That was brilliant. But Edson looked really, really crisp. His striking he was super fluid. At the very end of the fight, he was throwing some kicks and stuff that looked like he was warming up to go out there. Like he still had a lot of whip in his kick stuff like that. And one thing about Amirkhani that kind of confused me is in the third round he took him down as well. And after Edson had kind of gotten the better of the exchanges standing up, he took him down. And then Edson knew that he was up 2-0, possibly 2 10-8 rounds, for sure 1 10-8 round. If I was his corner, I would have been telling him that. Amirkhani takes him down and just kind of holds him down, doesn't really try to get off enough offense. And I have to wonder what's going through Amirkhani's mind in that time, because you're down on the scorecards. The better chance you have, you're not. You guys are too slippery, too sweaty right now for you to get a submission on Edson Barbosa, who's a great grappler. Your best chance, what you have to do to win this fight is to knock him out. The best chance to do that is on your feet. So even though you're losing those exchanges, you're not going to get the knockout, the finish that you want while you grapple him, and he just holds you and kind of coasts for 2 or 3 minutes of the third round right into a victory. Yeah,
you got to really pull a rabbit out of the hat, which. Makwan is a very talented fighter, Iranian born. He's elevating Finnish MMA training and fighting out of Finland.
Okay.
I think he's good. I think he's got a good future, and I don't think that was an easy fight for Barbosa. Another fighter I'd like to see maybe him in there with mixing it up is Sadiq Youssef. A really good up-and-comer. I don't know off the top of my head if he's got a fight lined up, but
he fought so recently he might not.
Yeah. I tell you what, there's been so many fights lately that it's hard to keep track of who fought when exactly.
Yeah. Well, and the UFC's kind of breaking the mold of like giving people 2 and 3 fights and maybe 4 fights a year with the Khamzat Chimaev formula, and there's certain guys that have gotten the same treatment. They didn't get the same hype and the same noise put around the Khamzat Chimaev type of thing, but there's been guys in the past 60-70 days that have gotten at 2-3 fights and even more offers. So the UFC is all about fast tracking people. It's just sometimes news and headlines and things like that catch more on somebody like a Khamzat Chimaev who fights 3 times and only gets hit twice. those types of things really make for good headlines.
Yeah, absolutely. And boy, he's really an exciting fighter. But I think Edson Barbosa, 145 is his new home.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think he's got a couple more fights to get up to the top of the ranks. But imagine him up there with like a Yair Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Or like what a great striking matchup that would be. Even Zabit. Edson Barbosa is a very good grappler. Zabit, if he could catch a submission on Edson Barbosa, or if he could stand and trade with him, that would be something. He makes the 145 division really fun. And I think 155, it wasn't going to happen for him there just because of Conor and Tony and
it's the situation
Justin,
of the logjam, and it's not even the fact that he doesn't belong in there. It's just he's fought all those guys.
Yeah. And he's lost to a lot of them, unfortunately for him. But, I think that, 140, he looked good last night. His body shots were great. And so for sure, shout out to him.
Yeah, shout out. That was a great performance, and if I were him, I would hang out at 145 for a little while.
For sure. So the last thing I wanted to talk about this card was the knockout of the night, probably the knockout of the year, possibly the knockout of ever.
Yeah.
Joaquin Buckley's jumping back kick to the face finish with his opponent having his leg. He basically caught a leg kick, just a straight body kick. And then he kind of used his other leg that was on the ground to jump and create momentum and probably pushed off of the leg that was being held, spun around and just caught a flush back kick to the face that his opponent was out. I don't even know what his opponent's name was. It doesn't even matter. I was so blown away by that I was like, this might be the best knockout that I've ever seen.
Yeah, and I think his opponent, we would botch his last name anyways, but it was a mouthful of the alphabet. And I think I was tied up a little bit last night, and this was early in the prelim, so this was an early fight, and hopefully it going viral will help these guys, and especially Joaquin Buckley, move on up, because people are going to know his name now after this. I sure do. It was so cool. You sent me the video. You go, you got to see this knockout, and I missed the prelims, and then it's all over the internet. It's all over Instagram. It was all I was seeing. So I saw the knockout before I actually saw the fight, and the first thought when you throw a kick in Muay Thai or an MMA is, when it gets caught, get it back.
Yeah,
but if you have the experience and the skills, and you have a coach that has seen it all, they'll usually have something interesting aside from the generic, if they catch your leg, get it back by any means necessary. That's what you would want to do, and most 9 out of 10 coaches would tell you that. But there's usually one crazy guy, like a Mickey from Rocky type of guy, who's seen absolutely everything. And he's like, no, I've seen somebody do this. And, whoever Buckley's coach is, he's probably seen some sort of crazy Muay Thai fight where a guy got his leg caught and then used that as like the jumping block to send the other leg. And, it takes it's almost like a leap of faith. You're completely leaving the ground with the guy that you're fighting trying to knock you out, holding your leg up. And it's probably a pretty scary moment, but it definitely paid off for him.
His opponent, for all intents and purposes, did the right thing. You're taught in Muay Thai, if somebody throws a body kick, you can check it, or you could step in and catch it.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of strikes and leg sweeps that you can do from there. So he was doing the right thing.
Right.
Buckley does have some Taekwondo experience, and this is like that Stephen Wonderboy Thompson type of thing with those crazy kicks that he does. And now Buckley is bringing some excitement. You just don't know what they're going to do with these kicks. And, like I said, Taekwondo itself is not nearly enough to have you be successful in MMA. But if you have a well-grounded game and you have some Taekwondo skills that people aren't used to seeing, you can really shake some things up. And
absolutely.
that was awesome. I mean, that was I don't know that. I mean, maybe Yair Rodriguez's, upside down inverted elbow was the best. This was better than that.
This was better than that for sure. There's some really great moments in MMA, but this one belongs at the top of the heap with all the most memorable knockouts. And what I'll say is, Taekwondo, it's out there. It's not debatable. It's not the best form of self-defense. And if you want your kid to learn respect and discipline and learn how to do some pretty cool things, Taekwondo is the way to go. If you want him to learn how to defend himself properly, or herself, maybe it's not the best, most effective way. But I will say, in mixed martial arts today, some of the most exciting fighters are lifelong Taekwondo practitioners. Now, they added all of the essentials like wrestling and boxing and jiu-jitsu and all of those types of things into their arsenal. But some of those guys, the Raymond Daniels, the MVPs, Israel Adesanya, the people who can do karate, Taekwondo style motions and they're fluid with it, with MMA style fighting, those guys are always super fun to watch. They're must-see TV, and I think you're going to be seeing more people, instead of just toss Taekwondo out and chalk it up as ineffective, they're going to say there's something to it. Yeah. And if as long as I don't neglect the other things, the more important things, the big three, if you will, I can add this as a supplement, and it can be very beneficial.
Yeah, I think you're going to see guys doing some of those type of moves here, or at least attempting them, or learning how to defend them, or trying to.
See people line up in the dojos and do all of the sequences and stuff.
Yeah, it's super cool. Shout out to Joaquin Buckley. It earned a much-deserved $50,000 last night.
Yeah, well earned, I would say.
So in other news, Khamzat Chimaev is looking for a date. He can't seem to find a dance partner right now.
Yeah.
He came out and claimed that Stephen Wonderboy Thompson has now turned down a fight with him, as well as former champ Chris Weidman.
Right.
So my question is, you have a guy who's a hot prospect, who wants to fight, who Dana wants him to fight because he's got all this potential. And nobody seems to want to fight him. So what's going to go on? What's going to happen with Khamzat? Is he going to get another fight before the end of the year?
Yeah, well, absolutely he will. Dana promised us that, and there are tough guys in this sport. Everybody claims to be one. There are less than there are fighters in the sport, but you can't blame a Wonder Boy Thompson, for not taking this fight. It's a lose-lose situation. And I think Michael Chiesa actually came out and said that. He goes, so you want somebody like Wonder Boy to fight Khamzat Chimaev, essentially an unranked fighter, fighting a guy in the top 5, top 6, and if he wins, he beat an unranked guy, and if he loses, then guess what? Khamzat Chimaev steals his ranking, and he gets kicked to the back of the line. So, for me, I understand where those people come from, and Wonder Boy was calling out Leon Edwards, so it's not like he wants an easy night out. Yeah, he's just being strategic with who he fights, because a loss to Khamzat Chimaev, which is very possible, these styles don't really match up in Wonder Boy's favor. That could be a problem for him, and he could maybe never get back to a title fight or being a title contender again with a loss to Chimaev. If him and Leon Edwards go at it and Leon gets the better of him, then it doesn't set him back quite as far. Right. So I don't blame Wonder Boy for that. I'm not going to say I blame Chris Weidman either, although Chris Weidman could probably use something like this in his career where it's at right now. He was a champ. He just got back in the win column and is feeling fresh and alive at 185. What better way to prove that you still got a lot of dog left in you than going after who's being marketed as like the scariest guy in the sport right now?
If you think you can beat him and derail the train, that really gets you. It's a risk, right?
Right.
It's a risk because he's an unranked guy.
Right.
And we don't know much about him, and nobody has really. It's almost like after Khabib fought Al Iaquinta, and Al did some really good things in that fight, although he got dominated. You started to see a lot more people calling for Khabib fights.
Right.
Because, I think if Al can make some of these things happen and demonstrate some good takedown defense, I think he may have laid the groundwork, and I think that I can beat him. Mm-hmm. Nobody's done that to Chimaev yet.
Right.
So I think what these guys are waiting for is somebody to say, okay, he just exposed the Achilles heel of Chimaev, and that's my strong suit, so I know I can get him. And that's when they're going to try it. So, if, what a great way for Weidman to get his name back out there. Hey, you know what? You got this scary Russian guy who wants to smash everybody. I'm going to take him out. I'm going to show you guys. I'm the former champ. I'm a Hall of Famer, future Hall of Famer, and I'm going to show you guys that I'm going to step in there and fight anybody put in front of me. Weidman apparently turned it down, so he doesn't agree with what I'm saying there. But one guy who didn't turn it down and said he wants to fight is Cowboy Oliveira.
Oh, yeah.
Cowboy Oliveira said, hey, you know what? Throw him to me. I'm the Brazilian cowboy, baby. I'll fight him.
Yeah, and I believe he totally would, and that could be the fight we end up seeing.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah, and Cowboy Oliveira is a veteran of the sport. He's fought pretty much everybody. He's, to say that he's afraid to go do some heavy lifting is just simply not true. One thing about this sport that we harp on it all the time, confidence is real. It's something that really has to be not only in your corner's mind, but in your mind as a fighter. You have to be confident that you're going to go in and you can beat anybody on any given night. And with all these guys apparently saying no to the Chimaev fight, and all these guys that, Dana White will come out and say, look, we offered it to this guy, Tom, Dick, and Harry, and none of them took the fight. It makes you realize that a lot of these guys don't quite have the confidence that they lead on. Yeah. And that's not a good thing. But, you find a couple guys like on Oliveira who are bad to the bone. They're willing to do it. They're willing to step in there and basically the biggest show that the UFC has going right now. And look, the thing about it is if you have if you have the confidence that every fighter in the UFC should have, you take that fight and you take it immediately, because Dana's already guaranteed it's a main event. He's already guaranteed it's against Chimaev, who is doing really good numbers as far as viewership goes right now. And you're going to get a lot of press behind you. And if you can steal that thunder, do it, because opportunities like this don't come all the time.
Yeah, and I think one guy who sees that opportunity, even though he's a star in his own right, is Darren Till. Yeah, he's got a fight coming up in December, but he said that should he, he believes that he will win his fight in December, and then he said after my date in December, I'll take you on.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't think Chimaev is going to wait for a fight to happen in December and then ultimately recovery and more training camp, and you're talking about spring of next year. He's not going to wait that long to fight, so he's going to jump in there. I think that the roadmap is laid out. I think it's going to be Chimaev versus Oliveira. That fight makes sense. That fight is fun. Cowboy Oliveira deserves a main event. He's done a lot of heavy lifting for the company. I don't know that he's ever been in a main event. Maybe when he fought, maybe when it was Cowboy versus Cowboy for a fight night. I can't remember. Was that a main event?
I think it was.
But he's going to be in there with Chimaev, and that's what a great opportunity for him to get some shine. And he's got a great skill set. He's no walk in the park. So if Chimaev gets past Oliveira, then boom, Darren Till's next, and you got a guy that just beat the Brazilian Cowboy, a veteran, a legend of the sport, is now in there with Darren Till.
One of the biggest stars of the sport.
One of the biggest stars in the sport, and for a potential title eliminator at that point, depending on how Darren Till's next fight shakes out.
Yeah, and if you look at the layout of the 170 division, the 185 division, the two divisions that Khamzat is kind of contending in right now. And I say contending because he is a number one contender. If Dana White had a top contender pull out of a title fight at 170 or 185, and he called Khamzat Chimaev, Khamzat's taken that fight, and he's not. If he comes in as the underdog, it's not a big underdog, and he's a problem. You might have somebody back out of their own title fight if they say, hey,
Israel, next week you have to fight Khamzat Chimaev because Cannonier just pulled out, or whatever the case may be.
Right. Yeah. Israel has gone ahead and said that he will do the fight, but when you're pressed with the situation at hand, you might have a different story. I'm not saying Izzy's not a tough guy, because he for sure is. He does a lot of heavy lifting.
Dominated Paulo Costa, but still, Khamzat's a scary guy.
That's why he is every bit a contender as all the top five of both the 170 and 185 divisions. And I think if you're a young fighter, even if you're a veteran and you're looking for that revamp in your career, if you think you have what it takes to beat Khamzat Chimaev, sign that fight and
try it out.
Try it out. And if you lose, you're just one of the guys that's an actual tough guy in the sport. Look at what nobody said a bad thing about Gerald Meerschaert since he lost that fight. Yeah, sure, he got knocked out, and what was it like?
The first punch,
the first punch, and it wasn't competitive at all. But nobody's going, oh, he was afraid to fight that guy. He did the thing. He lost, but he definitely signed the dotted line, which a lot of people apparently aren't doing.
Yep. And I don't think Cowboy Oliveira goes out on the first punch, no matter how hard you hit or who's hitting you.
Yeah, no, he's been hit by a lot of tough guys.
Yeah. And the crazy thing about Chimaev, and we've said it before, is that he trains with Alexander Gustafsson.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks he's got the Russian grappling, pressure heavy, take you down and beat you up style, which he definitely does have that. But when you're boxing and sparring continuously and learning from Alexander Gustafsson, who's one of the best boxers in the game, your boxing skills are going to come along, and they're going to come along at a rapid pace.
Needless to say, he's a complete fighter. I mean, you go watch some of his highlights from before he was in the UFC. Some of those KOs, he's showing high-level boxing, high-level kickboxing, and being the Chechnyan national champion wrestler also shows that he knows a thing or two about being on the ground. And what it's so cool.
Good mix of finishes.
Great
some
mix
subs,
of finishes.
some knockouts.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is the ground game is almost a completely different thing in Russia as it is to a Brazilian. You watch a Mackenzie Dern like we saw just the other weekend, or you watch some of these high-level jiu-jitsu players, and it's just like this fluid game that they're playing. A lot of the people that watch do jiu-jitsu, and we know what it's like, how beautiful of a sport it can be. The Chechnyan style, the Dagestani style wrestling, it's not so pretty, but boy is it effective.
Yeah.
And it's devastating, and it's one of those things where they've figured out a few seriously important mechanics to completely shutting down a fighter as a way to block and defend themselves, and then they just it's almost like a big brother beating up a little brother, and there's nothing they can do about it.
Except in our case, I'm the big brother and usually get beaten up by you, little brother. But good analogy nonetheless.
Yeah.
But I think that
it wasn't always like that.
he gets better, even though we don't get to see much of it. he's improving in every fight.
Yeah.
And it's not his fault that his opponents are crumbling onto the first shot.
Right.
But I really believe that the Khamzat Chimaev that we saw, a couple weeks ago against Mearschart is a much better fighter than we saw
against Rise McKee.
Yeah, against Rise McKee, and will be a better fighter in December than we saw against Mearschart.
Yeah.
I think this guy's only getting better. When we first came out, you and I were both super hot on him.
Right.
And even a few people grilled us in the comments. They were like, it's way too early. He's fighting bums. You guys don't know what you're talking about. I'm telling you, I stand by my comments on
my front row seat on the hype train. I'm right there with you.
Choo.
Yeah, exactly. I'm there. I went back and watched all his old fights, and I've since become a big fan. The guy lives at the gym.
Yeah,
he lives at the gym, and somebody like that's dedicated to the sport. He doesn't care about anything besides fighting, making money, fighting, making money, fighting. That's just what he does. He's in there every day, living there. He's learning every day with some of the best fighters. Obviously, Gustafson's one of the best strikers the light heavyweight or heavyweight division has ever seen. And he's a young guy, and he's hungry, and he still wants to improve. A lot of people, when they get a little shine from the UFC, they're like, they believe they have arrived. And in a lot of cases, they have. But he doesn't see his party as being over yet. It's just now getting started.
Absolutely. It is certainly getting started. Guys, let us know, what did you think of the fights this past weekend? Is Cory Sandhagen a bona fide star? Is he back on the fast track to a title? And who fights Khamzat Chimaev next? Who do you guys want to see? Is it the Brazilian Cowboy? Is it somebody else we didn't even think about?
Yeah.
Let us know in the comments. Is
also, Edson Barbosa.
True. Yeah, Edson. Yeah, how about Edson? Give us an opponent for Edson in the comment, guys.
Yeah, we need to know.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun fights for Edson there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But anyways, until next time, guys, next week you'll probably see us back in our normal set.
That's right.
We're going to be home in H-Town, putting it down.
The lighting will be a little bit better. Forgive us, but we're happy to bring you any sort of content we can. We love talking fights, and we love sharing the content with you.
That's it, guys. Have a wonderful week, and check us out where you listen to podcasts. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and have a wonderful day.
Peace.